So this morning I woke up and I was feeling really sad and feeling really alone. Now, how many of you identify with that feeling, right? It happens to me when I'm not in a place of regulation pretty often. And especially like if you're not in a relationship or anything, it tends to hit you so much more. So then what do you do? And more importantly, where is this coming from? When I dive deep into this, so what I did today was I did my usual breath work and meditation, and then I wanted to get into what we call holotropic breath work. It's an extremely challenging version of breath work that allows you to like tap deeper into your subconscious, but more importantly, to bring out emotions that need to come to the surface. So now, if you're feeling sad or if you're feeling alone, that means there's an emotion deep down inside that your body wants you to listen to. Where is this coming from? Most likely this is stemming, especially if it's a feeling of like being maybe alone and a feeling of loneliness. I mean, we are human beings and so we love our social like connections. However, if this is something that hurts you fairly often, it's most likely stemming from like an abandonment, rejection, or an invalidation wound. So it's stemming from a core wound coming deep from within your childhood. So when I was getting into the breath work, I could already sense I was feeling really sad. There's a strong emotion behind that loneliness or feeling alone, and that feeling of being sad needs to come out and express itself. But whose sadness is it? Is it the sadness of you in the moment? Not entirely. It is primarily the sadness of your inner child inside, seeking company, seeking love, seeking nurturing, and seeking nourishment, and more than anything, seeking affection of your environment, your caregivers, or the space that you were in, when even if you think you got it, you may not have fully got it the way you wanted it to. For me, getting into that, memories came back so clearly of when I was younger. And my mother was a very provider based mom, so she always showed up when I needed something, but she was not enough of an emotional, caring, nourishing, and nurturing mother. And that's why for me, what I felt so often was I felt emotionally abandoned. And not just that, physically as well. My mother had four other kids. She spent much less time with me than a normal, quote unquote, normal child would get from their parents if they had one or two children, perhaps. My mother used to travel abroad a lot, and so when she traveled, I would be left with my aunt, or I'd be left with like somebody else in my family, and my dad was living in another country. So that feeling of like being alone and abandoned comes stem so early. And there was another strong memory that came to me was when I was sent to boarding school. And when I was sent to boarding school, that feeling again of being alone, of being abandoned, right? You're sent away to somebody else to take care of you. It was so strong in the first 3 nights of my school. I couldn't sleep. I was feeling sad and I could feel those feelings as if to say, why can't someone really love me? Now, those feelings, believe it or not, they follow you even on these days when you wake up. If you don't have a partner, even if you do have a partner and you're not feeling fully validated, those feelings come in. They're like, what is it about me that's just not so lovable? Why can't I have that life where someone or this feeling of true affection and connection is inside me? And it's only because, and I'm giving you this, my honest work over all these years, is it because your core wound is coming to the surface. So then what should you do? You need to recognize that inner child. You need to see that inner child with the pain that they're feeling and the tears that are coming out from within themselves. So I dove into holotropic breathwork for 8 minutes, and something I teach my students actually in the gauntlet. And it's insane. Your nervous system gets so jacked up that all the emotions are coming to the surface. So if you see my eyes and my face like this, it's because 30 minutes ago I was sobbing. I was actually sobbing, thinking of that little child there who felt, whether he was or not, who felt so abandoned, who felt so like rejected, who felt like he wasn't enough, that he could get all the love that he wanted. Maybe he wanted too much, maybe he wanted too little, maybe he just wanted the right amount, but he didn't get it. And so it made him feel like he's not good enough to truly be loved. And as life goes on, that gets masked and shows up in different ways. So the reason that I'm saying this to you today is because you have to pay attention to that little inner child. After that holotropic breathwork and all the emotions came out, and I was I was so sad but frustrated, and I was like curled up into the fetal position like a child, and I was crying. Once you get those emotions out, you're now seeing the inner child who's really hurt and one who's really crying. And then you have to soothe them. You have to show them that they are so valuable. They are so worthy and deserving of being loved. They deserve, our affection, our time. And you imagine the same things they didn't get. I was imagining the same way my mom didn't show up in certain situations emotionally. I imagined me as the parent showing up for that inner child in that moment. And as you do that, you start to realize, you start to feel more of an internal sense of like care, security, of nourishment, of nurturing. You're taking care of your own inner child, and so you're now starting to take care of yourself more in the present. And in the present moment, you start to show up so much more fulfilled. You start to show up so much more grounded. You start to show up with needing less of a dependency. I wanted to pick up my phone and like text maybe people from my past, maybe exes, maybe like just friends, to depend on them to make me feel better, which when we're lonely, we need to reach out. But if we're depending on it, then we're feeding into our attachments. And so that's when you really need to do those meditations. See what's there. Like, witness, see, and be heard for yourself before you expect the world to see and hear you. And once you do, you'll bring up so many emotions, so many challenges that are there from your past, that if you soothe that inner child and you soothe those challenges and those triggers and those wounds, then in the present moment you start to show up so much more content. You may still feel like, okay, I'm on my own, but you feel a little stronger being on your own. And you're now, because of that feeling, you're able to invite company, other people who will show up to you to compliment you and not to fill a gap that you're desperately needing them to fill. So always listen to what your inner child is telling you. Even if you're angry, whether you're sad, even when you're happy, all of these things are your inner child trying to come out and express something to you. Listen to what they're telling you, enjoy them, and then let them go and allow and validate them. More importantly, that, okay, you know what, you're feeling this, I have heard you. And then in the present moment, you will see how differently you'll be able to show up with so much more security. If you like this video, click below to like, to share, to subscribe, to do all of those things, and follow this page, because we have so many more videos with this kind of magic, so to speak, inner work magic coming out. But make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. And more importantly, if you found value in this, share this with all your friends. Much love to you.